Going to call the meeting to order. This is the February 7th, 2024 Select Board meeting. And please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, first of all, are there any citizen statements or petitions? Okay. Any correspondence? Nope. Okay. So first thing, first regular item on the agenda is the 6:30 p.m. land use 5-year plan hearing. So I'd be looking for a motion to open the public hearing.
I move to open the public hearing for the 5-year land use program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So this is, I will be reading it as the select board member of the land use committee. So this is the 5-year land use program goals set by the Mendon Land Use Committee based on the 2023 to 2030 Mendon Open Space and Recreation Action Plan and the Mendon Master Plan goals. So I will just read these and then invite comment afterwards. So the first goal is to improve access to open spaces and recreation resources, to identify gaps in accessibility and equity in utilizing these resources and develop plans to address these gaps, enhance accessibility features of these resources to ensure equitable access for all residents, to increase public awareness of available open space and recreation resources through outreach and education. Second goal is to expand the amount of and improve the condition of passive and active recreation opportunities, to assess the condition of and develop a plan to improve existing recreational opportunities, to identify the recreation interests and preferences of residents to help create new recreation opportunities, to increase the number and variety of recreational programs, events, and activities to engage residents of all ages and abilities. The third goal is to protect the natural resources in Mendon, including forests, farmlands, water resources, and wildlife habitats, to promote sustainable use of natural resources, including responsible land management practices, conservation of biodiversity, and reduction of waste and pollution, to monitor and control invasive species, protect wildlife habitats, and promote habitat restoration and enhancement, to implement sustainable infrastructure solutions to reduce stormwater runoff and protect water quality, to protect and preserve Lake Nipmuc and address water quality concerns, to leverage grants, private donations, and other funding sources to support these efforts. The fourth goal is to promote and preserve Mendon's sense of community, to encourage community participation in the development and stewardship of its open space, recreation, cultural, and historic resources, to develop and promote community events and activities that celebrate the town and its resources, to foster partnerships with local businesses and organizations to support these efforts, to protect and raise awareness of Mendon's historical and cultural resources. And our fifth goal is to help guide business and residential development to shape Mendon's growth, avoiding haphazard development following the recommendations in the Mendon Master Plan, including evaluating land for best use for municipal, commercial, or other purposes, consider recommending zoning and bylaw changes that could improve the sustainability, economic development, and quality of new buildings, ensure adequate infrastructure for services now and in the future, and enhance and maintain the physical appearance of the town. And I would like to invite people to send their comments or suggestions, whether at this hearing or in the future. And I would just like to point out, this is the Mendon's Land Use Committee and the Community Preservation Committee are both have regular monthly meetings that are open to the public, of course, as all of our meetings are. They are typically hybrid and recorded. And so we encourage the public to join us at these meetings and give additional comment. But first, I would like to ask for comment now.
I just need to say one thing.
Yes.
Someone needs to read the public hearing notice as well. Before we.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem. It's on the motion sheet if someone would like
Yes,
to read it.
okay. Okay, so yes, the Mendon Select Board, Land Use Committee, and Community Preservation Committee hereby give notice that there will be a public hearing February 7th, 2024 at 6:30 PM at the Mendon Town Hall, 20 Main Street, Mendon and remotely. Details for active access to the meeting can be found at www.mendonma.gov/selectboard. To receive comments on the 5-year land use program, copies of which can be found at www.mendonma.gov or the town clerk's office, and to hear suggestions for Community Preservation Act funded projects. For questions, email communitypreservation@mendonma.gov. All right, so are there any comments? So if there are no comments, then I guess I would be looking for a motion to close the 5-year land use public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. So now I guess we will be considering whether we want to approve the 5-year land use program as presented.
I move to approve the 5-year land use program as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Nice job, land use.
Right, so next on the agenda is a proclamation that for the Lions Club of the Lions Club of Mendon wants to have Mendon Lions Day. So there is a proclamation. I don't know, would anyone like to read this?
I got it.
Thank you.
Take that gum out of my mouth. All right, so whereas the Lions Club International is the world's largest service club organization with 1.4 million members and approximately 50,000 clubs, and whereas upholding the motto, "We serve Lions," are men and women who volunteer their time to meet humanitarian needs, encourage peace, and promote international understanding through participation in club activities, and whereas chartered in 1974, the Mendon Lions Club continues to uphold the legacy and principles of the founding members. And whereas this year marks the 50th anniversary of the Mendon Lions Club, and whereas for 50 years, the Mendon Lions Club has provided outstanding and commendable leadership and service, enriching the Mendon community as a whole. And whereas the Mendon Lions Club is a valuable service club in the community where they have facilitated funds for local scholarships, activities, and organizations, as well as the host of the Lions Country Fair and Senior Citizen of the Year celebration. And whereas observance of this anniversary provides an opportunity to extend the gratitude our community has for the many valuable contributions made by the Mendon Lions Club. And now, therefore, we, the Select Board of the Town of Mendon, do hereby proclaim Friday, the 22nd day of March in the year 2024, as Mendon Lions Day in Mendon, Massachusetts, and urge all citizens to express their appreciation and respect to all Lions who have served this town so well throughout their lives. Signed, the 7th day of February in the year 2024 at Mendon, Massachusetts, by the Mendon Select Board.
Thank you. So I guess I would be looking for a motion to move to proclaim this as read.
I move to proclaim Friday, March 22nd, 2024 as Mendon Lions Day.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. So we have now declared, Friday, March 22nd, 2024 as Mendon Lions Day. Mark your calendars. All right, let's see. Next on the agenda, we have an update about Providence Street, and John Dudley, I believe you will be guiding us through this.
I do proclaim.
Christie, it's still broken.
What's that?
The
Oh,
update is
oh.
probably
All right.
still broken.
Okay. Oh, that was a quick update.
I've been working on trying to find funding to make the repairs to this and actually some new information since this afternoon that grant funding is gonna take a long time to get. Like if we're lucky, we can have something done by fall, but realistically, we're looking at next year before we can fix this. If we do grant funding.
Is grant,
The problem with the grant funding is that they allow, there's two components to it. One is preparing engineering plans, and the second is actually putting it out to bid for construction. And generally, grant programs allow you to do one first and then wait a year and apply for the second part of it. So both the culvert program that we had talked about and attended the session, well, John attended the session. I had a personal meeting with a person from, I think it was DEER regarding the culvert program. And it was the same thing as the program that from Mass DOT that, you know, you can do the engineering portion of it. But by the time they make the award, we get the whole process going. It will be the fall.
mm,
And then you're into the next construction.
So I
But
thought
it's,
it's very compatible with the timeline or.
So I talked to, I sent you guys a packet, a proposal from.
Before we get into that, just want to make sure we have more than one culvert based on a
Yeah.
previous update that we may want to address, right?
So there is, and I was actually gonna talk about this when we get into grants after the.
Oh, that's fine. So my point is, it may not work for Providence, but I'm assuming we're pursuing the grants for the other culverts.
Yes.
proactively, yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'll wait. I withdraw my question because the grants come up later.
Time bond, we are already contracted with them for stormwater. I reached out to them because looking at this Mass DOT grant, they are an approved engineering firm to handle coming up with an engineering plan for this job.
Mhm.
What I sent you guys was not everything, and I found that out this afternoon. So this is to get us started. This is so they can
review,
start to review it. They point us in the right direction. And they were basically doing this to get us to the funding portion of it. But when I talked to the senior project manager over there this afternoon, he said, figure on, they just did a job and the engineering alone was $186,000 to do. He said this job that they're doing and is similar is gonna cost over $1 million. And so I don't think
Hmm,
this is the way we want to go. And grant funding, even Mass DOT, we're looking at 100,000 for engineering and 500,000 for the construction.
So help me understand when you say this isn't the way we want
Right.
to go. I figure we only
So
have
there's-
so many ways we can go, right?
There are so many, but I have the quickest and most cost-effective way to go. And I had this conversation with this senior project manager this afternoon, is that we as the highway department take it on. But doing that, we have to replace it exactly the same way that it's there, 2 4-foot pipes. We can't do a box culvert. We can't do anything except replacing what is there,
update the
is
existing
update the infrastructure
structure.
down.
Are you allowed to take the whole earthen mound out and replace it? Or like,
We would have to.
right, that
Everything would have to be, the road would have to be dug out, the guardrails would have to be replaced.
That's
We'd
like
be
your
right
whole
down,
staff though.
right down to the creek bed. Redo everything from the creek bed up.
Right.
Is it gonna take us time? Yes. I wanna say it's the right or wrong way to go. Because there are so many other options out there. But if we do it, we have to just stick to those 4-foot pipes.
So what are the criteria that we're talking about? I mean, I feel like we're leaning towards the other numbers are really big. And
It
grants
was-
are not part of the,
It was kind of a shock to me when I actually talked to him this afternoon, because in talking to Mass DOT, when the engineer came out, he told me you're probably looking at 200,000. So then when I talked to this guy and he's like, we've done these recently and the prices astronomical.
Yeah.
Wow.
The construction portion of it, he actually made phone calls on it to find out like a ballpark figure, what we would be looking at for the construction portion of this.
How much is our construction portion if we do it ourselves?
That I don't know.
So-
We're talking materials and we're talking time and, I had talked to the chairman when this had first happened and he said, use the resources that you have to get it done. I was contemplating bring on one of our part-time snowplow drivers as an extra set of hands for this project to get it done faster because we're talking 2 to 3 weeks probably for us to finish this. That means nothing else is getting done in town because we're gonna tie up our
Yeah,
guys.
so we kind of need to see this start laid out. Because I understand what you're saying, but I think we got to kind of put pen to paper, if you will, and start to think, because
Right.
So that's what I was gonna say is
Yeah.
what I gave you for this proposal is a start and it will lay out,
but this is what Ty and Bond gave you.
this is what Ty and Bond.
You'd have to do the similar things, just not pay them 50 grand or whatever it is, right?
They're gonna be more in depth in their looking at this project.
Are we, all right,
They'll actually,
so if you do the work, they're still doing this proposal. They're gonna, I mean, help me understand that, because I thought you said
we're not committed to this proposal, this.
no. My point is we still need an engineer to come in to do whatever they have in this document. So then your team can go and actually build.
We replace culverts all the time. Smaller ones, not something to this
So
magnitude, but
Ty and Bond may not even be involved at all.
correct.
That's what I'm trying to get
Yep.
clear on what we're talking about. If
Right.
you can do this soup to nuts with your team.
I mean, it's gonna take a lot of prep on our,
I mean, it would need to be done.
Right.
Right. So
and that's kind of what we.
Well, this is where I'm going, is
You
if
gamble and say, yeah, let's try and go for the grant funding and do this.
No,
the right
let me
way.
back up.
Right.
What I need, I'm not speaking for the board. I need to see if the highway department does it soup to nuts. Here's my timeline, here's my estimated costs, and to your point, nothing else gets done. If we do a hybrid approach of, we get some support from this engineer, I don't know if them, somebody to come in to do some of the prep work, my guys do the build. It takes this much time, you know what I mean? So the conversation's good.
Yeah, like if we don't patch the roads going into spring for another month because we have to rebuild the culvert and you make that choice, like that, that burden shouldn't be on you to make that choice for the whole town as to, who does that? But we need to know what's gonna happen when you
I
do
would
it.
recommend that we get past pothole season.
But we need,
before
but we
even
need
do
to,
this.
what I need to see
The
is
numbers.
what not the numbers, the scenarios.
recommendations.
Yeah.
What are the options we have? Because so what if we have no more precipitation right now? Does Providence Street hold up till the summer?
Yes.
Okay, see, so that's another factor is the criticality of doing it tomorrow versus if we get another washout, I hear you. We started, twice now. But those were also, not once in a lifetime, but once every 30, 40 year events.
The first one was, the second one was between 3 and 4 inches of rain, which could happen. I mean, it happens every summer.
and we're
But every summer, but
still blocked for
but I guess my point is, what we need to do is lay out
right.
what are the options so we can make, to your point, you shouldn't be forced to make a decision that impacts the town. But if I'm gonna be involved in this.
But I want to know what's gonna happen if I make a decision.
Yeah, well, my options are, right?
Yeah.
Right.
No, you're right.
And I wish, because I got a lot of this information at 5 o'clock this afternoon and I was like, great.
Right.
Now I'm like, this has just changed how I was
Yeah.
gonna have
Right.
this
It
conversation.
was a different scale than you.
No
originally
worries,
thought.
no worries. I
Right.
just think, let's kind of, what do we need to go forward on and how quickly can we start to
Yeah, and
get to a point? of
if we
decision?
have to shut this area down anyway, at some point, which we all knew we were gonna have to do, really summer is definitely the preferred time to
Right.
do that, so.
Don't worry about school buses.
Right.
Oil trucks.
But if the culvert's gonna wash out in the spring rains, then we're replacing it anyway again. So I'd suggest going to look at how much it costs you to do the repair yourself, scale that out to what you think that 3-week long repair would look like.
Yeah.
And then, tell us what you planned on doing during that time and then how that would get pushed forward.
to the cost point though, I mean, the $1 million surprise, I'm like, whoa, that's a big number.
And again, I can reach out to other engineering firms and get different opinions. This is just what he threw at me.
It's
this
probably
afternoon.
worthwhile, but I think the other thing is we're not in a position to do $1 million project immediately, right? Never.
Right.
No, but if the highway solution, it's a big factor to your point is, that's bringing on extra manpower because we might want to have potholes dealt with, right? That is a project base that's going to be $500,000.
Whatever it's gonna be, that's our whole point.
Well, you're shaking your head. No. I want to understand. You're shaking your head. No. Does that mean it's going to be more or less? Okay. Well,
I would, and
Well-
I'd have to look at the numbers, but I would say that so we're not touching $500,000.
yeah, no, but I'm saying that's a number where in the back of my head, I know if we had to, it's an emergency. And Jody's over the saying, don't say it, Mike. She's going to say, I know we could come up with that just through ARPA, right? So we know there's a source for that number. The million's not.
Like, how's it affecting your budget, right? Because if like we're doing the work that we have to figure out how to pay for that and
Right.
how does that change your current budget? Like
And
what
so that-
materials
so
would we
once
be
it-
taking from
So
another
I
part
would
of
have
it?
to
that
look
sort
at
of-
what our costs are going to be to do this project and compare it to our
Do
budget.
you have
And then
a-
come back to you guys and
Right.
say, listen,
But
this is
Wait,
what I
yeah, can
have.
we maybe like get a timeline for when you could get that, like, I mean,
We'll be
This will
starting
also-
working on it
This
tomorrow.
ties into the pavement study too. So we've got $10 million in road pairs based on that study approximately, right? So how does that start? What's the plan around that? Because I'm still,
Right.
I'll go back to my original thing and I'm okay with allocating a fairly sizable chunk of money to the highway department to do road and culvert.
the hope wasn't it, hope was it wasn't gonna be just the one project.
Right. But my
Right,
point is
yeah.
like, I think when you look at it that way, it's still more about what realistically can we get done when I'd say culvert becomes an FY 24, 25 immediate. If I had to ask you, John, you're saying the pavement study is good, but Mike, that culvert's got to get fixed immediately.
And
That would overcome
Yeah.
fixing Wood Drive, which is one of the bad
Wood
roads.
Drive's got a problem?
It's not the worst though.
No,
So,
it's not.
so,
But you know what I'm saying, right? We need to kind of quickly understand. So I'm assuming there's some thought around the pavement study. There's clearly been some thought around this. How do we
So
bring
I
that
mean, I
together?
can give you I threw 4 scenarios at Beta for the pavement management study money wise. And I'm waiting to hear back from them. On.
Did you give them a target? Like if I had this much money, what would the plan
Yeah,
look like?
so I gave them 4 different scenarios with 4 different amounts of money.
Yeah.
And money going forward, what we'd have for chapter 90.
Yep.
Or what we'd have for chapter 90 plus this, or there's different scenarios, so I'm waiting to hear back from them and
And
see what.
so
they say.
we've also put placeholders in the capital working group for the next 5 years of having roadwork as specific line items. So we can we'll just change those numbers based on what you hear, bring back and what we decide to do. But I'm of the opinion we take this culvert work and look at highway repairs as a bucket, at least for FY 25 to say, let's,
Especially if you're doing a lot of asphalt, we can bulk buy,
Yeah.
things like that.
and we know we have an investment we need to make, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to put a chunk of money there in the next fiscal year, in my mind.
I
Yeah.
would agree. It's probably one of the most impactful things. we do.
Yeah, infrastructure for
Yeah.
sure, especially if we could get ahead of them the state coming through in 3 years to do 16. And all we clean all the roads up at the same time, that would be great.
All the roads.
so I wonder,
Magic wand, Mike.
are
magic
there,
wand.
are there options for other stormwater management solutions to the Providence Street issue? Like,
So there are a lot of grants out there. We looked at 2 that were recommended, and that's like we had said, Mass DER, which is Department of Environmental Resources, I believe, and their focus is the wildlife, the protection of it, the protection of the stream, the everything, the habitat, everything down there, and their their grant is more of an educational thing, so it takes a lot longer to get this job done because they bring people out to watch this certain portion and they schedule this certain portion. It would be a lot longer process.
There's no guarantee that you're gonna get that because it's competitive and
Yeah,
you gotta demonstrate some need in terms of an endangered species.
I mean, realistically, I wouldn't expect a grant to come through in the timeline you've proposed for the need.
And that's
This
so
one for Providence.
when I talked to this, to Ty and Bond this afternoon, and this is before he threw the number at me. Their timeline put it at July. And the way Mass DOT's grant works is, like David said, it's phase one, phase two. Phase one is the engineering. So if we could cover the engineering portion, and this is before he threw the rest of the
Right.
numbers at me.
Right.
It could potentially put us at phase two. Or I was
Sure.
hoping it would put us at phase two of the grant, come grants. It's May to June,
Well-
but we can't, they can't even do that.
Is the grant reimbursement matching or?
So that Mass DOT's grant, they will reimburse the construction side of it.
So that still holds true. If we got engineering, we front the construct, or we go for the construction for phase two.
But
Right.
it's only 500,000. If this is $1 million project, we still,
Well, yeah, but think about that. What if what if the highway department does it? We still want the grant, right? My point is this,
Yeah.
we should be pursuing these grants.
By having it done in-house, is there any liability
Yeah,
issues
true.
as a result of that? Are we gonna require to have some state certified work was done to it?
I thought only if the whatever we're gonna call it right now, the bridge got declared, like got classified as a bridge,
Yeah, get
would
picked
we
for
need to
loans.
take on additional consideration?
it is classified as a
It is, so like, yeah,
The
that's
Mass
something that
DOT
then-
has come out and declared it a small bridge. It's in their register now. And that's how we would qualify for this
Okay.
Mass DOT.
So yeah,
grant.
we should reach out to legal to see if that classification changes our liability based on what highway is,
So I
legally
don't
able to
think
do.
if we do the work, they're gonna reimburse it because there is a certain criteria that
agree.
you have to meet for the construction and using certain vendors and.
But
It's like I can't install a heat pump. in
But
my
if a
house.
box culvert solution was reported to us to be the right way to go, it's $1 million project, you're still getting half that cost reimbursed through this grant. So it's not, we gotta kind of think that through.
Right.
But if we don't get the grant, then we got $1 million project that we have to put the bill for.
But it also might be just the better long-term solution. So.
Agreed, and that's why I didn't want to say this is the, one is the right way
Right.
and one is the wrong way. Quick, cost effective, yes, highway department does it, but long range, is a box culvert gonna be better? Yes.
so question on the root cause of this thing, so. Did the original failure happen because the piping is insufficient for the storms that it received, or was it degraded?
Degraded.
Yeah.
These, from what I could find for a record, we're talking, these were put in over 30 years ago. And they've just deteriorated over time.
So they partially blocked and then they.
So you believe that, I mean, in a typical storm, if they were like just clear the original size and openings, that would have been sufficient. That this was sort of.
I don't think we'd be,
I don't understand. It was a combination of the large storm
Yeah.
and the failure. And if we can restore them to their original open dimensions, then, yeah,
I mean, yeah, there are, like you said, there's 100-year storm where culverts aren't gonna handle it either. way.
right.
Right.
But, I mean, this has been there for, like I said, over 30 years and we never had an issue with it until this year. And I'm sure we've got heavy rains that have,
Was any of this was anything else deteriorated or damaged because these pipes weren't working? Or just, you're gonna rebuild the whole thing with the pipes if you were to do it yourself?
we have to,
All right, so
the pipes are 7 feet down in the ground. We'd have to rip everything out, take the pipes out and rebuild it.
Are there any, so part of the engineering fees where wetlands, permits and delineations and all that? If we were to do that ourselves, relevant consideration, we have to do.
So that was another discussion that I had with this gentleman tonight. And he said that the wetland delineations, because this was geared towards the DER grant. He used to work for them, so that's what he geared it towards. When I told him that we kind of had talked and we took that one off the table because it's not going to be feasible for us, he said he can rework the scope for this proposal to focus more on the Mass DOT grant.
I would contact Carl from.
Yeah.
Concom.
That was my next, so that if we
Get
decide,
his
if-
thoughts.
if we decided that the highway department was gonna take care of it, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk to Concom and say, okay,
Yeah.
what are your concerns?
So,
So I will start putting together numbers and what, as far as highway's gonna do it, this is what our materials are gonna cost. And so we can come back and we have an idea as to,
Yeah, and secondarily, the effect on your department to do whatever you do. I'm sure you're also gonna have to use time of yourself and more than one employee, even if we do contract it out.
so
So that,
what doesn't get done?
what doesn't get done when those two employees aren't, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that we can help you prioritize what to do first.
So the other thing I heard is maybe reach out to legal.
So the earlier you start that conversation, the earlier it'll be resolved.
The better, and then sanity check the numbers too.
I went to look up the flow rate calculation for the culverts, but it was too complicated for me to do while we sat here. I looked at it and I was like, they'll figure it out. Yeah, so I mean, just that, you see it?
Back in the-
Yeah, so you're getting 8 total feet, right, of water volume.
so no, we were probably,
And before you were getting
9 or
maybe a
10.
couple.
when that was over the top of the road, we were probably at 9 to 10 feet.
Right, so the question would be like, what the total volume of the river was during that event, so that we could see if we were managing it.
Are there anything happening upstream or down?
That's,
That's
we
what- I
talked
mean,
about that last time.
That was also what I was wondering with the stormwater management sort of.
Town that had this happen to us, so the other towns had newer culvert.
Well, we were also wondering, I think the last time we talked about this, anything like upstream, like
Right.
beaver work or anything that might have been changed the natural flow so more was coming through.
That just comes up through the Carpenter Hill area, then past Blackstone, then over like towards the zoo. That's that whole watershed, so.
See it on the,
Concom would also.
Well, we're talking grants.
Yeah, I see. You're right. Yeah, I think,
All right,
seems like we're
Next
floating
subject.
into the items.
But
Yeah.
do we close, are we, when do you want to look for an update? So he knows.
Oh,
2 weeks.
2 weeks is our next meeting, so.
I'm here anyways for something else, so.
That's right. Yep.
okay.
I mean, I think. Yeah, we would be interested in knowing like more details.
But also, I mean, John, if you're, if you find that the 21st comes to,
Right.
just let David know. We can,
Or if you're done early, show us PowerPoint ahead of time so we can be ready. Just saying.
You like those PowerPoints, huh?
It doesn't have, a table is fine.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm thinking a one pager.
yeah, like
Sure.
Mike just said executive summary. That's what he said.
No. Swim lane.
Bottom line on top, bottom line on top.
So are there additional grant opportunities that haven't
So
been
there is,
discussed
because
yet?
this Providence Road. It's a catastrophe, but
Situation.
it
Yeah.
opened my eyes to other culverts in town, and in talking to Ty and Bond again. They have a stormwater grant, which I believe is up to $250,000, can be used for what we decide to use it for, and they've done culvert inventories for towns based on this grant before, so they will come in. It's a 60-40, so 60% of the cost is the grant. 20% is the town's responsibility, and 20% is us in the field with them as manpower to help them
In cancer.
in-kind services. And they would come in and do, which news to me, we through this stormwater program that we already have access to our GIS and they have all of our catch basins mapped out. No idea that that was possible, but they will also put
The
these,
pavement company also map those out,
not the catch basin, well,
or did they mention that they could?
they
Is
mentioned
that
that
what
they
said?
could, but stormwater, I mean, that's what they focus on is those. So
Yeah.
as new developments come in and we're working on updating the stormwater plan.
Real quick, one thing we should think about is, can they upload that data into the pavement software?
Well, Mike, so funny you should ask. There's this software that we've been
Didn't
looking
ask.
at.
Stated.
There is a software that will do that for us.
Well, I would probably, you really want to get started on that?
No,
No, no, no.
no, I just, so this grant, like I said, and I talked to the woman that we deal with for stormwater, Jessica, tonight, and she said they did one for Mashpee, which it would be comparable. Size, how much work was involved in it, and it was $100,000 total, so it was 60,000 for the grant. It was 20,000 for the town to pay, and then it was 20,000 of in-kind services, which would be tracked like when we're spending time out in the field with them.
What's
they would-
their output though? Is it like a comparison? Is it just like raw data? And you have
What
to
do we
figure
get?
out- What do you get out of it? How would you know what to do with the,
With that, they recommend, they make
is that
recommendations.
why they bring you into the field?
Yeah, and so there's a lot.
Would this be like the pavement study? They'd come back with, hey, for all your culverts, here's the actions we would recommend
Here's
you
what,
taking.
exactly. They would have the pictures and the data collected for them, and then they would come to us and say, listen, this one is getting ready to fail. You might want to address this one. We would have an inventory of every single one in town.
Mhm.
And then we can address them as needed.
But we don't have an inventory of all our
No,
culverts.
because this, when this happened, in my mind, I'm going, I need to start looking at these culverts. We need to start doing an inventory, but I'm thinking, how are we gonna tie guys up inspecting all these culverts?
How would you even know to get started with an inventory? We're just gonna drive around?
We're just gonna start going and checking culverts and start making inventory pictures and whatever else. Now they're willing to come in and do it, and then there's a lot more information.
It's gonna cost us at least 20 grand to do it ourselves anyway.
Well, give or
Doesn't
take,
matter.
give or take.
Okay.
So what's the timeline for that grant?
She did not say, but they handle writing the grant for us. They handle all of it, tie and bond, because they get that 20,000 that the town pays is how they get paid. But they handle writing the grant. They handle everything for it.
If we don't get, so we pay 20, what if we don't get the grant? Or is that almost guaranteed we get the grant?
She said it's pretty much a guarantee. She'd never had it. She's done, I think, 9 or 10 of them, and every single one of them has been accepted.
We'd have to pay them to rent the grant. They're gonna do it.
I believe so. I can check on that.
And you were saying the maximum was 250?
Yeah,
Right.
So you
And
can- we
if
can
you come
use-
in at 100, then
but think stormwater. It doesn't have to be culverts. It can be anything.
drainage at the bottom of Butler.
There, hey, we talked about that.
How about the MS4? Do they address anything with culverts or?
Can you say, repeat that, the which?
MS4 permit.
It's a state/federal.
Yeah, so that's what we pay them for right now is we have an up-to-date MS4 permit. We're at permit year 6 with them right now. And I'm getting a crash course on.
And over
Everything
on
stormwater.
Colonial, is that a bridge or is that a culvert? Like over near the fields on Colonial, when you're like going back into that neighborhood there? So those are the things like,
Yeah,
is this what that would determine?
yeah, all of those, they would do an inventory on.
They would help us classify.
Make
Did they go to the,
recommendations.
Make recommendations on, you need to repair this one, this one's fine.
I'm all good with doing this to just get the information, kind of similar to the pavement study. I'm also wondering what else do we know about our infrastructure? Because I mean, we thought about culverts when we had an incident. We thought about roads because we drive them every day.
Catch basins. She's working on as part of her MS4 permit, or we're contracted with them. They're gonna set up a survey, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I'm just thinking other
GIS.
things we should consider to learn more about.
So catch basins is one of them. Right now, they have an inventory that, yes, they see the plans when they're accepted, there's a catch basin there. But they don't know what it's made out of, how big it is, how deep it is, what kind of pipes are running out of that. And this is all stuff that we're gonna start doing, because we're gonna do, I didn't know we had that capability. Now that we do, we have the tablet, we can be out in the field with survey 1, 2, 3, and we're repairing a catch basin. You get pictures, you get all the information you need. And as time goes on, we will inventory more and more of these. So, I mean, roads, culverts, catch basins are kind of like the big three for
You
us.
feel like it's covered from your
I
perspective?
mean, I'm sure there's other stuff that,
Right, you can start getting more detailed, like road signs, out of date.
I understood that, but I'm thinking more about the
Infrastructure.
and knowing what we,
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff we don't know that would be good to know from a planning perspective going forward.
working on it.
Yeah, no.
So I mean, I think, so we covered items 6 and 7. Is there any more on? Sorry, 7 being the discuss grant opportunities for Providence Street.
So the ask is to understand what the cost would be for them to write the grant. 'Cause that's
Yeah,
right.
so I have that, and find out what we pay for them to write the grant.
Right,
I
and
know
it would
it's
be
not-
interesting to know the timeline
Yeah.
as well. Like if there's like a cycle for the grant, or if it's like an
If
open,
I tie
yeah.
that into, I mean, if there's grant opportunities to do culverts, not the Providence Street because it's near timing doesn't, but the
Right.
other ones in town, try to sync those up so you can get ahead of the curve on asking for the money for engineering, whatever you want to do. That'd be great to know. I mean, I'm all for it unofficially because I don't think we're taking a vote, but I think
No.
that we should pursue it. Depending on that cost.
Right.
That is.
Right.
That's what I was gonna say. We need to find out what the cost is.
Where
for
that
But,
primary
yeah.
funding comes from is important.
What's that?
Where that primary funding comes from is important.
Right,
You don't have it in your budget right now, so.
right. But
The
but
primary
20,000
funding,
we have, I mean, that could come from, say, ARPA.
Mhm.
I mean,
well,
hypothetically,
no, I don't know if,
no,
I don't know.
Yeah.
oh, okay, it might
Or
not,
free cash, but even,
Okay.
I'm wondering, curious, after 90,
it's true, yeah,
I'd have to look into.
but we could
whether-
look at FinCom reserves if we need, depending what that cost is.
right,
We've got options, but
Select board party budget.
the, lost my train of thought. Is really gonna be impactful too.
Mm.
So.
It's old age. What can I say?
So should we move on, and you can, yeah, if you think of it, Mike, you can mention it. We move on to item 8, discuss staffing for the recycle center. I believe that's also
Yep.
you in
That's
part.
also me. So we hired Gary, Richard, and Brendan had reached out to me. Forget exactly when we hired him, but. Like
6
him and-
months.
Yeah, him and his wife are having some health issues, which have caused us to close the recycling center a few Saturdays. And residents not been overly happy about it. So, do we hire my two thoughts are, I've talked to Jack McClellan, helped us out when we didn't have somebody, and he said he would help us out on those days, but there's also the option, do we hire an alternate? So that when Gary reaches out and says, hey, I'm not gonna be there next Saturday because I have to be in Boston for a doctor's appointment, we can call the alternate and say, hey, can you work?
Yeah,
So what would the budget impacts of that
Wouldn't-
be?
Because they're
Just paying.
Okay, so he's paid, right, he's paid
He would
paid by
get it, so
day.
Gary
so-
wouldn't get paid,
Okay,
he would.
okay, so somebody else.
What's our throughput at the recycling center? Like, how many people do we get on Saturday?
Depends on the time of year.
5 to 10?
Depends on the time of year. Sometimes it's a lot. Sometimes there's no.
Is it, I mean, is it necessary to be like, be open every Saturday or,
I wouldn't think so, but there are certain residents in town. that
but I
feel
mean, I
it
would,
is.
but if the dates are clearly posted ahead of time, like every other Saturday, for example, but
So, and the other thing that I had talked about before was expanding hours.
Hmm.
Because we've had people that have called and like, I can't get there on Saturday, so what can I do? And what we've been doing is you call and schedule a time to make sure that we're checking to make sure you have a permit and that you're bringing the proper things in and putting them in the proper places. But I was thinking of like maybe 2 hours on a weekday and an afternoon so that people have that extra option.
So are the hours for this job just? So what is the work involved? Is it like, so the recycling center is open and then maybe 5 people come? Is it
So you buy.
a
a trash-
productive time? I'm just kind of curious, like
So
what
you
is the person
buy-
doing?
They, people come in on Saturdays, they buy their trash stickers.
Yeah,
They have to buy a permit
yeah.
and then they can get rid of their metal, their tires, refrigerators.
And
air
so like the
conditioners.
person helps
So
them.
he helps them,
like,
this is where it's gonna
physically
go, and
move the
physically, if
thing.
he's gonna help them move a refrigerator, he does that.
Okay,
Um,
so it's a lot of physical work.
But
I was
Yeah,
about to say if a senior
It's really
volunteer
hard
could
to
help.
find an alternate just to give it some historic perspective on that.
it's not,
Because somebody's not gonna sit by the phone
I
and
have,
work 3 days in a year, you know.
we
Right.
have a gentleman he worked at the recycling center before, took a full-time job. He reached out to me and said he heard there was issues and he was interested in helping out if that is an option.
I'm surprised that stickers and permits aren't being coordinated, maybe within building and stuff like, I mean, there's an opportunity to do some, look at the operation to say, how much can this, like, the administrative side of this seems like it could be supported by anybody where money is collected.
Yeah, but what I've heard from people in the town is they don't want to go 2 different places.
Well, you know what? I'm happy to have that conversation, honestly, but I'm talking organizational design, efficiencies and things like that.
Can't you find it at the health department?
Not sure if you can buy trash stickers to the health
Oh,
department.
Jody, you have a,
I was going to interject that there are 3 different locations that folks can buy trash stickers, all business hours, all during the week. So the highway department is not unique to that.
Okay.
As far as special permits for certain things that they need to dispose of, that would be unique to the highway department. But certainly, there's reasons that we can also offer that in other areas if there's an issue at highway. The only thing that I see is really the actual physical disposal.
right,
And so, the first thing that I would recommend is if this individual, if we have 2 people to staff it and they're both unavailable, sure, we should have a backup list, right? What are other towns doing? Can we leverage people that are in different communities for these hours, right? I think we have a multitude of options, but the administrative part, I would just like to reiterate that trash stickers and things like that can be bought all during the week at multiple office locations. Mike,
Do we have permitting software in the town?
yes.
Would it handle a special permit? I don't know. As I know it's building permits, but I'm just wondering, we have this, I know we have permitting software. I didn't know if that
We
was
use it for like
customized.
fire burn permit, so we might as well be able to use it for other stuff.
I mean,
so.
this is a physical sticker then.
There's a physical sticker.
Like a trash sticker then.
It's
It goes on it sticks on your vehicle one time a year.
And
Stick.
then if you bring a tire and it costs
Yeah.
$4, you pay the guy $4 to put the tire in the tire. bin.
Yeah.
Seems like you could track license plates instead, rather than putting a sticker on a car.
Yeah, pretty much most towns just do it this way. I don't know.
That's all right. I have no issue with a backup.
It sounds like there's maybe opportunity to look at it just from a business and process perspective, but for the time being, it sounds like we need to look at a resource to backfill the folks that,
So when he's not there, we have somebody that can fill it in. Now, I can ask the guys at Highway to do it, but they're not gonna do it for nothing. They're gonna want 4 hours of overtime.
No, I have no issue with a backup on call if you can get it and it's budget neutral. Why not? Because that's probably the quickest way to address the issue.
Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't the recycle center mostly self-funded with paying the staff with what comes in?
I'm not really sure. I haven't dug into that in a long time, but I can look at it with you offline if you want and give you a couple of options to bring back to the board for sure.
But I think the key though is you only get paid if you work. So if,
Right,
The
so
original-
I mean, we're
so
paying,
it's neutral that way. I'm not sure what the source is.
Right.
so we're
And we can
paying
make it
somebody
bigger.
for every Saturday, is that the idea? So, okay, and but although lately, I guess there have been some Saturdays when we're not paying anybody because there's nobody working.
Which,
Then I get a phone call.
And I get a text.
Yeah.
But I would also say this, though, if the volume and the throughput does not warrant, if you've got one person on a given day and you're paying somebody is it a stipend type of thing or is it hourly?
it's hourly.
You're
For
paying
how
them
many
8 hours for one visit on a Saturday, we should be looking at our schedule to say,
It's only 4 hours, but yeah.
4 hours on Saturday.
work with me here.
I think
Come
it's
on.
like 17.38 an hour. or something
Well, my
like that.
point would be if you got one person on a Saturday, we should be consolidating to every other Saturday or once a month, depending on what the volume
It's
of the
really-
throughput is.
And really,
Well,
My
but,
first job,
I'm saying,
but maybe.
my first job was.
yeah.
I mean, like, look at that, look, if we, right, look at the traffic over the year and say like, maybe have it be weekly in the summer, right, but maybe scale it back in the winter if there are only like one visitor. You know.
Ideally, it would be a benefit for one of your guys to get overtime to do it, so that we wouldn't have to deal with
That would be a
the
budget.
situation. I know, but I'm just saying, like, ideally, it would be an opportunity for someone to earn a couple extra dollars on the weekend and have a reliable individual who already works at highway, take care of highway functions. Like, that would be the ideal situation. But if this is a zero cost, and I think you heard everybody say, then like, yeah, make it done.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I'm in
so I
favor,
guess
but I guess,
my next question I see Jennifer is on,
oh, good.
if I'm gonna hire an alternate to do this, does it have to be posted?
Jennifer, for you,
In other words,
do you have an answer for that? Like she unmuted.
She did unmute.
Is our volume not up? That's possible.
Where the
I
heck
have
is it?
Are we using the right audio?
Where the heck is?
Just the TV remote. The volume on the TV remote, looks like
Oh,
our volume's up. Just check the TV sometimes doesn't have volume.
This one?
Yeah.
Well, there's,
It says
what, there's something in the chat, is it?
No, it says Poly. Oh, Samsung? Okay. Oh, God, I don't know. This is like ridiculous. It doesn't even,
Is there?
all right, I'm gonna try. Let's see what happened.
Brendan, or can you?
Oh,
this in the
see?
chat?
I knew that was gonna happen.
Oh, no.
Now we got TV.
Ah.
Great, great.
One
I
second.
can ask Jennifer tomorrow.
I mean, but I think, yeah, we do need to
I
get.
guess
I don't even know how to get-
make the recommendation. John and I can talk offline.
Right, thoughts on this,
Talk
guys?
about a couple of the business things that we need to look at as far as operating
Think it-
code in general. And then we can talk about some different solutions to either staff as is in the
Mhm.
current footprint or look to make some recommendations
Right.
around a different footprint that
Right.
would better support the actuality of this.
Right.
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 Town,
And it, maybe in the summer, it would be, make sense to have more hours, for example.
right.
It's usually like the fall and.
Or, well, okay, whenever the projects are going on, but.
Spring cleanup.
Yeah.
Because we do accept leaves and rush, which.
I didn't hear any
Oh.
volume, so.
Actresses.
Well, we gotta make sure we're using the right
No,
speaker.
when the
So I would start
playing.
tracking.
So is there something
Right.
in the, I see, looks like there's a chat message. I don't know if that's
That's
letting us,
unrelated.
unrelated, thank you.
Yeah, it's,
Not letting us know that we're going to talk.
It's intense.
someone from, I think we can hear it.
Jen,
Or maybe not. No, it's still not.
Nope, all right, well,
All right.
Can I?
we tried.
Maybe she can type in the chat, or we can catch up with her later. I think we're gonna
I
talk to her.
but Probably have answer that question.
we
I
are
mean,
using this,
Best
the speak.
practice wise,
I looked at it
Right.
earlier.
and policy wise,
Yes,
we
yes.
should. Okay.
experienced is internal postings first and then external postings.
Okay.
You know, as a best practice, I think to Mike's point, and I think Elaine, sorry, it was Jason's point, it's always easier to add hours to somebody
Mhm.
rather than to add individuals
Right.
to a job, right?
Okay.
So from a liability, head count, just
Right.
insurance, et cetera, you start adding to staff, even if it's not benefited. There are efficiencies gained when you add hours, even though on the flip side, you know, it's maybe a way that we can take care of existing employees, right? Like there's a few more hours, earn a little bit of extra money, you know, that sort of thing. So again, John and I can take it offline and, you know, kind of talk through some options that might make sense.
All right, thank you. Are there any more things related to this topic?
This
Okay,
topic,
this topic.
I was gonna say the carriage house, that's. on
Yeah.
there too.
Okay, yeah, well,
Suppose.
Are we closing?
do we want to skip to the carriage house update and then?
Actual meeting.
don't we-
Yeah, if we
why don't
want
we-
to
why
give
don't-
John the ability to go home.
Yeah, let's jump forward to 11, the update on the carriage house. Is there-
Yes, we voted to allow us to demo the house.
John Erickson's online here, so.
Carriage house.
So we were at the historical meeting as well, and.
Yes, yeah, I was there in the room, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
She was sitting on the side and you couldn't see. It was weird. Like the camera was showing like a funnel in it.
Oh, really?
Something happened, somebody moved in the whole camera and I was like, oh, there's like 10 more people over there. And I saw
So,
Yeah, so David, did you have an update?
well, the
Or-
update was that we originally had talked about, in an effort to save money, having highway not building down. A little wrinkle with that is that, actually, John could probably address some of it,
Oh, are we still having volume?
I can turn the volume up on my speakers. We can see that.
there are piles in the building. Date back to pre-1975, I believe, and the potential for asbestos. So we need to have those tiles tested before we remove them,
Okay.
as well as the glue that they used to put the tiles on was an asbestos-based product. So we are going to have the tiles tested to make sure. We don't want to put anybody in harm's way.
Otherwise we have to pay for an abatement.
Yes. Depending, if you were renovating the building, you could probably go over.
Coat it.
Lay a plywood over and put whatever you wanted on it, but the way, if you're ripping it up, there's gonna be dust and fibers from that, so.
So John Erickson, we see your hand up. We're just having issues with volume, so.
Okay, I haven't tried to speak yet. I'm not sure if the issue's still there.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, great.
Good
So,
job.
yeah, so the asbestos issue, the entire building should be tested. On that, there's probably maybe 7 tests that would be done. The tile flooring, the asphalt roofing, the window glazing, maybe not even 7. For a company to come in and test it, it's probably in the neighborhood of under $1,000. And depending on the, how it came back, how the test came back, if anything came back hot, as they call it, then we would have to get a quote on getting that removed. But you absolutely need to do that preliminary testing before we go ahead and knock it down. If it comes back that nothing's there, then, it's as simple as, I don't know if your board actually authorized knocking it down yet, or if you're going to do that in a vote tonight, but then it's just a matter of me coordinating with John from Highway to get the permit issued and have him go in there with a machine and the
So
disposal.
Can you,
It's not that easy for highway to do that. We could
okay,
easily take the backhoe up there and knock the building down. We don't have a thumb on the backhoe to pick up the material, and then it would all have to be loaded in dumpsters and hauled out of there. So there is gonna be cost to it
Okay.
aside from highway just
right.
taking
Okay.
care of it.
So, John, can you just repeat the cost of the asbestos testing?
So the testing should be under $1,000. I had
Under
a
1,000, okay,
I had
thank
a
you.
meeting
I
with
said
um,
100.
no, under 1,000 for testing. I had a
Under 1,000, I
meet-
can, that's good.
I had a meeting recently where there was a company that does this work daily or regularly, and he gave me, a very informal idea on the pricing, but when I explained the size of the building and, the layout, what's there, he was pretty confident it would be under 1,000. It's like 600 and change to come out, and then it depends on how many tests they have to do. Each one is a certain price. I don't know if it's,
So have these been scheduled yet? Do we need any steps to, okay,
no, I would have to schedule somebody, and then we'd have to talk about the funding of everything. I mean, we could start with, it's such a small amount, I can just get a quote from him, and he would go in almost immediately. This is a different company than did the town hall. I could also reach out to that company. I just happened to be in a meeting where this representative was attending, and we had sort of a side conversation so I could get an idea of the cost.
you work up what you need. Add that to your list of things that you gotta work up, but what you need for highway
Well,
to
'cause-
take it down.
right, I
Like,
mean,
if a thumb tool is less money than a whole excavation company, then let's buy the thumb tool.
It
right?
strikes me that we need to get the answer to the asbestos question also
Yeah.
before we move forward with this demolition. Like, I mean, it's,
Hiring company demolition is gonna be expensive.
right,
I would estimate probably between 10 and 20,000.
right.
Since it's the select board responsibility though, can't we just pay for the asbestos as the select funds?
The asbestos is gonna be tricky, because depending upon what they find,
Well, that's the hard-
they then have to take it out in such a way that it doesn't prove to be an environmental hazard to anybody doing the work.
You're saying when they demolish, if it is
They demolish,
positive,
right.
the demolition's gonna.
I'm just asking for how we pay for the testing. Can we just pay for it?
I think we can find that, right?
We just did this 2 years ago, like John was mentioning, for the town hall. And we had asbestos in the main floor of the tiles. And so we contracted with a company called Banner Environmental. They were excellent to work with. And they had test results back rather quickly. And then gave us a remediation plan, to go over some of the tiles and then to remove other portions where we had we wanted to refinish the hardwood floors. So all in, we were about $7,000, like for the entire process, start to finish.
That's true.
Again, that was inside, and then
Right.
there's post removal testing that has to be done by an independent third party. It's around $500. Outside is gonna be a different story because, you're able to kind of block off doors and windows with plastic. Outside, I'm not really sure.
Right.
And, the disbursement rate of particles, when you do that sort of
Right.
thing, they know
Yeah.
all of that. So I would I would recommend, like John said, let's get a first test,
Right.
see what that yields, and then take next steps to mitigate, and then.
Right.
determine
I
if
think,
it makes sense
right. I
for
think,
highway to even be able to take
Right.
it down.
so I mean, I'm inclined to say we shouldn't vote on the.
No. Yeah,
No, so,
let's just say, let's get the test and see.
right, we need to know what we're dealing with.
They need to authorize,
Safer.
What's that?
we need to authorize the testing of the.
I don't know. Do we?
No, I mean, I think.
No, I think.
Yeah.
It's part of.
The question, I was wondering, should we or have we brought in the Board of Health to make sure they're aware of this? Do we, I mean,
Oh,
I
right.
think it's a health issue.
Right,
That we
yes.
want to be making them aware of it,
Where that we're.
we're testing, and if there is asbestos, I'm sure they'll want to.
They'll want
So, John Erickson, are you in communication with the Board of Health on this or
Or do they need to be?
did?
I have not been. I don't think we need to be. We
Okay,
just
I
need to
mean-
get, we need to get it tested first.
Yeah, I guess if it's positive, it's a, public health. issue.
There's all
We
kinds
don't
of
know.
filings. Once
Right.
you discover it's asbestos, and depending upon the size of the job, they're gonna be packaging it, and they have to have a manifest. It has to be sent to a facility, and everything is, documented, so the company just doesn't take it and throw it by the side of the road.
How would
You actually have
backfill,
to have-
right? Like, that's just a wooden structure on a concrete slab, right?
Yeah, you could take
Right.
it down with the slab and leave the slab.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how much work we have. Okay, so we don't.
Yeah, I
have,
think-
like,
We-
basement in or anything like.
I didn't
There's
think of
no
the
basement.
asphalt
But
shingles, so.
if there is asbestos, the highway option's probably off the table.
Yeah,
That's
probably.
right,
Right.
right.
Absolutely is.
Yeah. Right. Right. Any more relating to the carriage house?
Bad news there.
Well, I would
Not-
just add, if I can, that, if there's asbestos, we'd have to hire a company to do the remediation. And once it's
Right.
remediated, it doesn't take highway completely off the table. They're just not sort of doing the entire
Right.
scope of work.
Okay. So, right, well, our plan will be very.
It'll be
much
totally
developed
fixed up by
The
the time.
offer
we get
might be
there.
rescinded.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Right.
Thank you both, John.
So, yeah, did you have any other things, John? Great. So then why don't we move back to number 9 that we,
Stuck in snow.
so discuss ARPA funds. David, did you have?
I had forwarded to everyone a copy of the amount that we had gotten.
Right,
Yes.
For some in the neighborhood of 1.8 or 1.9 million.
right.
I know that we've made a commitment to the fire department for the truck which I believe is somewhere in the area of 900,000.
Up to 800.
That's what that number of that 900,000 keeps coming up. So,
Hmm.
you know, how you want to allocate that 900,000. I know that Mike had proposed, 500,000 for the road study. It seems to be whenever something happens here, that's the go-to sword.
That's why we need to spend it, so it's not there anymore for us to.
I think the thing to remember too is we need to identify or earmark it this calendar year, right?
Yeah, because it's only, I think you get 26.
We gotta spend it
We
by
gotta
like
spend it.
26. But I think whatever we do now is not binding per se, because we could earmark it if things pop up.
We talked about a highway truck also. I don't know, John had made mention of that today.
Well, his highway truck is on, it's on a cat.
Most, I guess, it was.
Oh,
No,
that was the other thing.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the replacement?
Talking about the replacement.
Is this coming under CapEx?
Yeah, so right, yeah, so we're still talking about ARPA funds specifically, but,
As it relates to the replacement of this vehicle?
right,
That's
So-
up to you guys.
okay.
So
Well-
we're gonna get an insurance check for the vehicle that was totaled.
Okay.
But it's not gonna cover the cost of a replacement truck. There's gonna be.
50%, 60%?
Depends on what we get.
For the truck, I thought we were gonna get 20.
So
We
we're
don't
getting,
know about the hot truck.
Laura, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's like
$875 is what
So
we're
less than
getting
a third.
for
Right.
the truck that was in the accident.
It's replacement cost, but it's not replacement cost in the traditional sense. Replacement cost means they're gonna replace it with like kind and quality.
So
Right.
what
This
this explains to me is that it's,
See, they just buy a truck a year older.
yeah,
So they'd have to go out and find a 2007 or that makes no sense at all. So
This is the item that's on your FY25 request, right?
I don't know. if
It's
I
part
put
of your
it-
fleet.
It is part of the fleet, but I'm not sure if I put it on there. I'd have to
did.
look back
You did.
because it was
there.
involved in the accident when this all
Right.
took place. So, yeah, I mean,
And then we don't know the replacement cost for the hot box, but probably minimal
so
compared
that's a
to.
separate claim and we
Right.
haven't heard back about that.
And
yet.
that's a potential lease to own situation.
So right now we're renting one at $3,000 a month. There is the option to. Yes, I guess you can call it.
Well, last time we talked about it was we could rent it or lease it and towards owning.
yeah,
And I mean, we're into pothole season. This thing has been out 3 days already this week, 3 days next week, 3 days last week.
I've noticed the filled in potholes.
Yeah.
It's nice.
But I mean, this is going to be the next 2 months. It's gonna be out 2-3 times a week. So it's something that I think we need to figure out what we're gonna do.
Well, we're
Do we-
leasing.
Do we just keep renting this hot box?
Once again, what are the options, John? We're leasing it now, so the work's getting done. I'm not sure what the budget impact is
We're
of
not.
leasing.
We're not leasing it right now.
Or you're
because this
renting
is- This is a rental. So what they had said to us was, we can bring you a brand new unit. You pay the $3,000 a month, but it would go towards the cost of the machine if we buy from them. We have their rental unit right now,
Fine.
because we haven't committed to buying anything from them, and the insurance company is supposed to be paying the $3,000 a month for this unit, but
It's fine.
we're limited on how long we can keep this rental unit.
How, do you know?
At some point,
Because it is their demo unit as well, so they use it for other
But how long?
things,
Yeah, do we,
3-4 months.
okay.
To get us through pothole
I
season.
mean, I can.
It would be nice to know when, right? Is
We'll
it
check
10 or is it 4
find
months?
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When,
Once it gets back to, okay, we're renting, we're gonna have a finite time to use this rental that's being covered by insurance. We have an option to lease to buy. Do we want to accelerate our decision on leasing to buy? Or do we pick that up at the end of the timeline for rentals? What does that start to look like? Because I'd say even the lease to buy, then we either got to incorporate that into your operational budget for FY25.
and we still need to hear back from the insurance company, what they're gonna give us for it.
Agreed. But the idea is maybe the insurance is that's additional benefit, but still to understand and this is where I'd say you and Jody sit down and say, what are my financial options to say, and how does that roll into the capital? Because your hot box is also in the capital plan for FY 25. That's captured. I added it.
So now there's three things in the capital plan for
You,
25?
no, well, you've requested multiple things for 25.
I thought I only did one. I was putting them years out.
Yeah, there's probably three things at least, plus the pavement we put in there, you know, over the next 5 years, a certain amount for road repair. I think working out the financing options, or what, you know, once again, bring it back to say, here are options. If we lease to buy tomorrow, we're gonna get this benefit. I'd say, sign me up, you know? This is,
You only get
So I mean, I guess back to the topic of ARPA funds. So we're considering that this possibly might be a use for ARPA funds. I mean, I know you had been suggesting something like we pick an amount for highway and then, you know, but I don't know if we're like at a stage where we can lay that out tonight.
I think there
Like,
was
I guess the bigger
confusion
question
when we
would
talked
be-
today, right?
What's
There was
that?
confusion when we talked today about how much is left.
Yeah,
so I think there's less
about a
confusion
million.
because it's been tracked down
Yeah.
that in the, was it August that you found that?
I think just over 1,050,000.
Right, okay.
but you know, like I said, if you're gonna take that 1,050,000 and you know, say, all right, we're making commitments here
Mhm.
and identify those things that you want to do with that money.
Mhm.
So then, you know, when it's gone, it's gone.
Mhm.
You know, it can't be continually, well,
Right.
we can use
Right.
ARPA funds, you know?
Right, but it,
I think that's what we gotta drill down to.
right.
preaching to the
I
choir
would
on that
like
one.
to- I personally would like to make it happen on infrastructure. That was the original designation of that bill in Congress. And I know they loosened it up a bit, but we aren't. Highway is the last on the list, you know, always, so
Till we do the engineering.
Whoa.
beef them up.
Highway is not always last on the
I'm
list.
just saying,
We're-
on the big departments, right, like you know, it's schools, police, fire, highway, right, and then everybody else. So, roads aren't getting a lot of treatment, we just got those studies, if we could give some money to get the
Okay,
roads fixed.
roads. I'm with you preaching to the choir again, because I said, let's
Right,
park a chunk over there. I might reduce it a little bit, given what we've seen in the asks.
Yeah.
Is things like extrication tools for the fire department.
Hmm.
I read that ask, I'm like, that's, you know, and we're actually meeting tomorrow, the working group,
okay.
to talk about how do we prioritize, what are the criteria? And so things like, I can't do my job, might be one of those
Right.
criteria, you know?
So will the working group be in a position to make a recommendation for, say, the ARPA funds?
I think ARPA is just one source of funding.
Right, but just on the topic of ARPA funds, I mean, right now, we've talked about a lot of things related to them, but it sounds like we haven't, I mean, like, I guess I would be interested in
Let
seeing
John,
the
David
big
figure out how to
picture.
spend it.
Right, but to determine that chunk, for example,
The what?
to determine what size of the chunk, you know, what size chunk.
I don't think, I mean, I would probably, personally, when I look at it now, given what I've seen, I'd say like 400 highway, 300 senior center, the balance to whatever the smaller efforts are we could allocate it to.
Did we,
And it could be a truck.
Right.
so we ordered a truck. We, the board approved the truck
You're
for
right,
154,000.
Was that also, right, so that
So you
also
need to add
needs to
that
be
in there.
updated, which I guess, Jody, you need to get these updates.
No, that 150 is coming out of the 400 I just said.
Right, okay, right, but we already, we voted on that, so,
Yeah, I think what we're trying to avoid is continuing to look at ARPA funds with, well, let me back up. I think we've talked a lot about ARPA funds
right,
and 800,000 for the engine. We were able to capture that. You just need to do some kind of backtracking a little bit. to see
Right.
What meeting minutes and what decisions
Yes,
were made along. the
right.
way. We did fund, you know, a highway truck, but that
Right.
was a different source of funds. It was not ARPA. This might also be a situation that could be ARPA.
Sales and.
And that's what we vote. It might have been a different one. So we just have to kind of look back on it.
Yeah,
I guess I also wanted to mention, like Mike had said, the working group for the capital improvement committee is meeting tomorrow. And some of these requests that, you know, we asked that department heads about are already in our purview, right? So we're gonna be able to look across those and see what we can do to prioritize. There are other things that that came up like this accident. And so now we understand that we can recoup X amount from insurance. We have this rental option. So now, John, you're gonna have to do some work around, okay, if we go this route, it's gonna cost us this. If we go that route, it's gonna cost us that. Maybe there's an opportunity to not deal with financing and take, some of our other funding sources and be able to apply those funds appropriately. I think as we look at all of the projects and then we look at our funding sources, we're gonna just have to match up what funding sources are allowable uses for said things, right? So we have the sale of Milford Street, just as an example, $400,000 that has to be used as a capital project or a capital project. So we have
Okay.
$400,000 that has to be allocated for a capital project, right? So as we look to some of the terms and conditions of these monies, then we can start piecing things together and saying, okay, well, this has to be a capital project. Let's use that for the culvert situation. ARPA funds, oh, it's only on rescue equipment. I'm making that up. It's not, but you get my point.
Right.
So then we can decide what funding sources are most appropriate for the needs. And I think, Mike has done a lot of work around this and the committee to be able to pool all these things together. So now we have a holistic view of all the needs, both from just a capital perspective,
Right.
but we're also looking at operational, right? So we have to sort of balance both of those buckets.
Mhm.
Obviously operational, something you're gonna continue to fund year after year. And then the capital stuff, we can look to, get ahead a little bit, and just kind of balance debt. And we have some different strategies, but
So
I guess my only ask in this whole conversation is if you guys remember, because I wasn't at every single meeting, other things beyond the fire engine, if there was potentially a truck vote or this or that from the
Did we
board.
fund the sewer study?
not
From.
I
There's
thought that was a grant.
That
Yeah,
that was grant.
Oh.
Yeah, there's some water sewer infrastructure that was earmarked.
Yeah, the EMIs.
can I suggest then we hold this to the next agenda?
I mean, I think,
Well-
yeah, I think that would be great.
Because we're getting close, like people actually
Right.
want to earmark money. I'm like, yeah.
Right, well, my personal thought would be, it would be great to have maybe a little bit of a structured recommendation from the working group about the ARPA funds, about the specific,
We need
like,
to
establish what,
specifically what it is that we want to
right,
fund.
well, and establish definitely what the amount is that's left, sort of go back and do some of that, like, the
I
bookkeeping.
wasn't sure about that piece because there was things that could have happened before I had gotten here.
Right.
And I was unaware of them, so I didn't
The
take
one
an attempt to do that.
I agree with what you're saying. I'm not sure the working group would be ready by the 21st to, maybe,
Yes.
we'll see how the tomorrow goes. We're probably
Yeah.
closer than we think.
Right, you're the one who's like been leading the charge with
Yeah.
this group, so like, if not, next time, but I just think it would be, I think, a great.
We'll
use
consider,
for
an
this-
an
this
update.
Working group to like, having seen all of the sort of the big picture
Yep.
of all the requests. And then make a recommendation
The- the
to the
one thing-
board.
The one caution, we don't want to hamstring John's ability to do things. So if we think ARPA is the right thing for culvert or things like that,
Right,
maybe it's not a
Right.
full-fledged earmarking, but if we collectively know, and I agree with Jason, I think a chunk of the ARPA funds have to go towards highway. And it used to be just pavement study until
Right.
some of these other needs popped up, the vehicles. I'm like,
Right.
well, okay, we've got an investment to make there. We just need to be comfortable that if John comes back in 2 weeks and say, here are my scenarios, and we see one we like,
right,
we should gotta be willing to go. Because ARPA is probably the only source that I think we can
Right,
quickly
so-
say,
so
apply.
potentially wait to do all the allocations until we've heard from John about.
Or this working group says, we think it makes sense to give the full million to highway to do with it what John feels is right. No pressure.
So, I mean, so it sounds like, we're moving towards having this on a future select board agenda item, possibly with a little bit more structured recommendation.
Actually, the interesting thing I just thought of about the insurance settlement, that 20,000. Generally, an insurance settlement is not required to go back into the general fund. You can spend it for the original purpose without reappropriation,
Oh,
which is
okay.
nice. So if we get a check from, you know, Meyer or Cabot Risk or whatever, we can use that and pay for another vehicle or apply it towards another vehicle.
Okay.
I mean, just to your point of recommendations, the working groups are set up to provide information to the board, our board,
Right.
and FinCom within the budget process for FY 25 recommendations. So it might be more informational.
Right.
So everyone gets a sense of,
Right. I mean,
this is what's out there. And hey, this is sort of the leaning of the working group saying we think these things are important based on our prioritization. But ultimately, the select board and FinCom will be
right.
figuring out.
Well,
what
right,
the
it would be,
directive
right, that
is.
this, right, this, well, the ARPA money is specifically the select
Right.
board, so.
But
But I
we-
think it would be nice, I guess I would be in favor of having a little bit more structured, like
Check.
a spreadsheet even, for example.
Oh, we got spreadsheets.
I mean, but
Yeah.
for that, you know, presented to us in the meeting, so like,
And like I said, one of the things that we're working on is listing out, and I'm pulling together some of the funding sources that can help support these projects and
Right.
initiatives and or capital purchases.
right,
And so as we look at the timeline between the current fiscal year that we're planning for and then out 10 years, 5 years, we're able to, to understand what are all the potential funding sources, unused, project money, sale of town-owned land, free cash, debt, ARPA, any special funding sources that we can kind of document. And then we basically, like I said, kind of match up, okay, we could use this for this for that, and it is all on a spreadsheet, so we can share that.
great. And then, I mean, I think, so we've talked a lot about ARPA, I guess we've sort of been also kind of bleeding into item 12 on the agenda, which is update about CapEx, and I wonder about just sort of finishing.
I
Like-
put that on your request.
So do you have
Like I said,
additional?
as a placeholder.
Oh, yeah, so this was, I think, basically for our 5 primary objectives this year, to kind of have opportunities to provide updates. So it's just sort of standings, like
Actually-
under old business, I think.
Yeah, we should do it like business, budget related items
Sure.
or something, then have your CapEx.
Yeah.
The revenue update, which we were gonna do,
So-
but we're really not there. The Mendon Upton School, BVT School, that's all one item.
Yep.
In the future, we'll just
Right.
consolidate that into like FY 25 budget
Sure.
issues.
So
But for
quick
tonight,
update
or- yeah,
for
number
capital.
12, yeah,
working groups met once, we meet again tomorrow. The inventory assessment, data collection was excellent. So we've taken that and through different other meetings, we added some additional things. So I think the inventory of what the town needs to keep an eye on. 80-20 rule complete. I'm sure there's more things there. Requests, we've sort of extrapolated from the inventory that people were having requests built in. So we sort of separated those out. So we've got a pretty clean look
Just
at.
a refresher, what was the cap on the inventory like for the value?
It was like 79 or 83, I think. No, it's 79, and then we started adding some, so it's a little higher than that.
Okay.
And then we included like town and parcels as well. Things like
We have-
Misco
we capture
Springs,
A lot of data.
yeah, and that'll be part of the update
great. I mean, are we getting like do we get to see like a?
workbook,
list?
Excel.
Yeah, like.
Yeah. So it's, right now it's broken out in terms of fleet, equipment, and, sorry.
Structures, like.
Yeah, yeah,
Buildings.
facilities,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got a request of FY 25 to 26 actual requests
Mhm.
from the department heads and the committees. Then you've got everything that was greater than the 5-year window, which is sort of, there's still requests, but
It's gonna get pushed on as.
Right. so what the working group's going to start to focus, narrow down on FY 25. And that might be moving things from 26 into 25, depending, on how those funding sources play out. I think we've got some information from the budget meetings that Jody and Dave had, that more questions answered, help us prioritize. So tomorrow we're going to focus on understanding how we want to objectively prioritize the different requests across the overall operations, as well as I think we've probably gotten some feedback from the department heads of which were their top 1,
Yeah,
2,
like,
3.
you know what stuff is emergency
Yeah.
versus, okay.
And from there, we're going to overlay the sourcing that, I think the 80% of the funding is probably known right now, where it can come from. So for, the focus is to narrow down to FY 25 to coincide with the budget hearings for FinCom and the ATM. And from there, we're gonna start building into more policy and procedure. So the idea is we're gonna hand something off to an actual committee for next fiscal year. Sort of policy, procedure, artifacts that are gonna allow them to kind of carry it forward.
Thank you. All right, so that was item 12. Just gonna do a little housekeeping. So I think we skipped over item 10, but we are actually passing over that item. So just formally passing over it. So, all right, so then I believe then if we're done with 9, 11, 12, so I think we're up to 13, an update on, so there's,
Once again, that's
On
gonna be
NRSD.
combined into one.
okay,
The one thing I can say is that Jody and I are gonna be meeting up at that was one of the items on my report. We're gonna be meeting up at the school to hopefully get some information on what they're expecting, as well as, I guess there's a school bus deficit from the state funds
Yeah,
reimbursements and.
yeah, he reached out and basically said that, their state aid was a little bit less than desired, around the transportation component of their state aid to their budget. So to the tune of about $150,000 that they'd be looking to the towns, both Mendon and Upton, to help support. So he just wanted to kind of, have some discussions around how things are looking on our end and just share some information, with David and myself with regards to that, just early engagement at this point.
They'll
Great.
come tomorrow.
thank you. Right, any more on 13? Okay, so then next. Okay. So next up is appoint Kelly and Ryan as deputy collector. And I think, did you have comments about this, David, or?
I know that they're a reputable firm that has a number of communities that they service, and they've been in business forever. From the perspective of using them, I have absolutely no qualms about recommending them for.
Right. So I believe they're a contractor, they work for the town, but also we need to formally appoint them as deputy collector. Is that correct, Jody?
We need to do
Right.
that.
They could serve,
Okay. Do you have
Yes.
any more comments on that one, Jody?
No, just that they'll be on our annual reappointment list from now going forward.
Okay, great. So I guess I would be looking for a motion to appoint Kelly and Ryan as deputy collector.
I move to appoint Kelly and Ryan as deputy collector, term to expire June 30th, 24.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, so then next up is our town administrator report.
Okay, I just want to update the board that we did meet with, Jody and I did meet with pretty much all of the town departments on was it Thursday?
Friday.
Yeah, of last week. And we went through their budgets. We, made some changes in terms of, collapsing items to better fit the model of the budget. I just, like I said, we're piecing it together slowly but surely. There's not a whole bunch, but there's a number of items such as Mendon Upton, the county assessment, Blackstone Valley Tech, Aggie Tech, that we still don't, those are big pieces of the budget. We don't know what the impact of those are going to be, as well as in terms of setting salaries. Because right now we have all of our unions and we're in negotiation. We've level funded them at present, not to put a number in there to sort of influence any negotiations that are going to be going on. If we said, all right, we're going to give, everybody that's not in the union 3%, that sets the wrong message to the unions. We're going to let the unions come back to us and finalize what they negotiated, and then we have a better sense on what we're going to pay everybody else, basically. And I just want to say that Jody has been awesome in terms of putting the budget together and taking the responsibility this year for, basically doing the work. And I want to recognize her for that and, you know, saying that she's doing a great job.
David has proclaimed that you've done a great job, and we appreciate it.
Yes,
So.
yes. It's the date of February 7th.
Thank you.
We
Okay,
declare
David.
appreciation.
David.
Thing you said about just the budget, so one of the detailed stuff that we're kind of looking into that's taking a little bit of additional time is making sure that through all of the budgetary transitions year over year, the chart of accounts, the fleshing out of, you know, the new landscape there, that everything is where it should be. For example, people have been submitting timesheets to the right GL account numbers, like we're really going in and really scrubbing everything. Because details matter, right? So we want to make sure that every salary line item, even without contractual increases, are lined up to the right budgets, to the right everything. So I'll just say that because when you see some budget information forthcoming, you're gonna say, huh, why is this down? Why is this up?
Right,
There's
yeah.
gonna be a component of sort of some refactoring, so to speak, of things that should have been, that may not have been, and things that got shuffled, but nobody said that they got shuffled, that sort of thing. So
Right.
just to kind of preface, you know, as we start to work through these things, we've looked at everything.
Yeah,
And,
we just want to make sure all the classifications are correct too, you know, like you have
Right.
departments, you know, some broke out postage and, you know, there are other ways of doing that, and that's probably not a great example, but.
No, but-
No, that's actually a great example, because I noticed that the postage was something that caught my eye in that spreadsheet, and it was very interesting that some people pulled it up.
Some do, some don't, some don't have.
Conformity with all things that make a difference to people, right? So there's certain departments that do not like having supplies and postage and whatnot into the one because they like to track it, but doesn't mean it has to be a separate line item. I just need to show them how to run reports so that they can break out their postage, right? Because, so there's different ways to get at it. So our goal is really, first and foremost, uniformity, you know, across the chart of accounts to make sure that, you know, there's consistency. But then again, if there's unique situations where something should be broken out because it's contractual, you know, postage isn't a great example of that, but maybe contract services, you know, specific to the fire department is different than contract services as it relates to something else. So we're really trying to listen and hear the needs of our department heads, but also balancing that with the uniformity and not over customization and over complication. Still managing transparency and all the things that are important to our residents. So should be, you know, it's just a lot of little details.
It's just a question, because the budget, normally this time of year, we're just looking at budget. That's really been the focus from a financial standpoint. This year, we're looking at budget. We're trying to establish a capital plan, which is going to require a whole bunch of financial analysis. Yeah. So it seems like from my experience, we've got a lot more things running concurrently right now. So my question is, are we set to support it? And are you comfortable that we're going to get it all done?
I'm getting the part done that I can get down now.
Yep.
In anticipation that somebody is gonna come in after me and be able to wrap up all those other things and sit. I'm gonna sit with the person, obviously.
But and not, no, it's more the whole financial team. So if I looked at you,
No,
I'm
I know
thinking,
that. I'm just saying, you know, like,
I see two
I
people
wish
trying
I
to do a
could
whole
say
bunch
to-
of work right now.
yeah, I wish I could say to you, I know that Jody's absolutely doing, you know, way more work than her 30 hours. I feel that, you know, that she should be compensated for that. That's an aside.
But do you need more hours? I mean, if we think about the amount of work we need to get done. 30 hours, part-time, two primary people doing it. Are we set up for success is my question.
And before you comment,
I think that's.
I just want to
That's
share.
what I was trying to make is that.
I feel like I don't have that experience.
Mhm.
And it seems like it's all being taken care of to me right now, who just came on board this year. So if it is all being taken care of, but at twice the rate that it used to have to take, then we should probably do something about that. Is that what you're saying? Because I wouldn't have recognized that. I just thought this is business as usual. So
one, I mean, she just said it'll get done. That doesn't
Of
mean,
course,
yeah, I mean, but that's not really what we're striving for here,
right,
right?
right.
So just think about it, David, just in terms of allocation and, are you budget and is she capital or is she capital? You know what I mean? What's the work allocation? Do we need more hours?
Yeah, do they need more support or?
More support, more hours, more support? 3 Jodies, 2 Jodies, 10 hours, I don't know, but I just want to make sure that no one's asking for it. And I'm sitting there going, this is interesting because I know more work's getting done
Right.
than I've seen in the past. So I feel like with a part-time TA and a 30-hour full-time, I feel like we might be asking a lot here. I just want to make sure we're not gonna.
And I will tell you that Jody's doing the bulk of the work.
Okay.
Because, in 24 hours, even a full-time town administrator doing the budget
Mhm.
is, that's a tough thing.
Right.
So Jody has, picked up the ball and is doing a great job putting it all together. And we're working together. I think that's the key part.
I'm just between the lines, Mike, the answer is
Yes.
yes, they need more bandwidth, they need more
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, and I guess the only other, I would say yes to that answer, that question. But I think, realistically, the budget takes priority right now, right? As it
Right.
relates
So
to
that-
getting-
right.
that has to be. David is not set up to be the one to learn all this in, 4 weeks at 24 hours to then be able to deliver. So he and I have been working very closely to do this. So with regards to the capital plan, I think that we've done a lot of work
I agree with that.
on the capital plan. And for me, if both things are even, and the capital plan was out ahead a little bit because we were in November and December, but now the budget's come in and it's like, okay, the capital plan for me is still a focus, but it's just a little bit behind.
Less
Because we just have to prioritize. It doesn't mean that it's off the table, it's this or that. But right now, the operational budget is the priority. And I recognize that Mike has also stepped in and done a lot of the things. Yeah, to handle a lot of the pulling together of the information, the team and the spreadsheet. So that's been super helpful. And now I need to come in and complement all the work that Mike has done with the funding sources, with, the spreadsheets and the things that we've built to create the framework. So I think the way things are going, it's a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie. It's way above and beyond what I normally do. But that's okay, right? Because there's ebbs and flows with everybody's work. And David and I have talked about, additional hours, additional compensation, that sort of thing, to just do what needs to be done, because the reality is there's really no one else poised to be able to do it.
You think it'll be better next year?
With
Like,
that.
are you guys setting it up to be better next year?
Right, I mean.
Sounds like it.
And
I just.
hopefully this full-time
What, the
town
way we're
administrator
seeing.
start.
Administrator takes the lead.
This is like, I've done it with the accountant, so with the accountant and I go through the budget, we have all the department heads come in. Ultimately, it's my decision in terms of, what things get funded. And the problem for me is that there are big things coming down the line that aren't gonna happen until the end of March. Or, you get the school budget, and then you gotta go back and forth with them, and the thing is, the full budget isn't gonna be fully built until April, and it's gonna be the responsibility of the new person coming in to pick up those pieces. Like I said, Jody has done an excellent job in terms of recording, what's happening and the nuances in each of the individual budgets, so that we know number of personnel, what are their priorities, what are the associations that they belong to, a whole bunch of questions just to get a feel for what it is they do and how they do it, and is there a different way?
I think though,
Exploring that a little bit.
I think it'll be better. I mean, not only have full-time resource, but the foundation's being put in place. So I think people are gonna be more familiar with it. Springbrook's gonna be clean, is my guess. Things are gonna be the process is gonna be strong.
Components are reusable.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've gone through lots of growing pains, right, in the last year. But the new system and then flushing that out and then vacancies and positions and just trying to keep everything going has been a lot. But the nice thing about it is, again, we've never had a capital plan in the formal way that we created one. That's huge. Right now, I feel fully comfortable, Mike might disagree with me, sort of tabling that for a little bit. I mean, I don't mean table it, and,
Right.
forget about it, shut it in the closet. I just mean, we'll just let that kind of
Right.
sit aside, half baked, the way that it is. And we need to revisit that in July,
Right, like
after.
after town meeting, yeah.
FY 25,
Exactly.
we got to nail.
Yeah, you do, like we had talked about last meeting, punch list. What did we do right? What did we do wrong?
Yeah.
How do we make it better?
Yeah, it'll be a review of all the information and the data collection and the organization and the prioritization, and then we can start to leverage those tools to be able to say, okay, now what are we looking at for FY 26? So yes, it's gonna be 1,000% easier, and
Yep.
I think everyone's gonna have a lot more information.
All right, this is what I heard. The work's gonna get done, Jason.
I heard it.
And it was opened up and I didn't hear anybody saying,
Well, I mean, that's.
I
the
need more.
attitude, right?
so.
That's a great
We're good.
attitude, Dan.
But in a serious note, as things are gonna get tight in the very near term,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and so do not hesitate if we can't get buried, so we have to get it done. So
Yeah.
if you need more help, more support.
Well,
You gotta-
Jody and I today, we talked a little bit about the presentation to the board and the FinCom. I've never believed that doing the two separate from each other is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because the message has to be focused so that everybody hears it. We don't tell one thing to the finance committee and then tell something else to the select board. So there's an opportunity for everybody to be party to it, and there's no blood on town meeting floor. We can have disagreements, but, it's out there, everybody's talking about it, and we're all moving it.
It's much like the meeting we had before the special town meeting with both the committee, FinCom and select board together in that room. That was actually a great discussion, I don't often always hear their perspective on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
please do.
It's important. It's an important piece of it, actually.
Also want to mention on that note, just so that you guys know a couple things behind the scenes that I think will be helpful for everybody. The FinCom has expressed throughout the course of the last couple of years that I've been here, just wanting more visibility into the process and not just sort of being that gatekeeper board at the end. And yes, it's the select board's budget per se, but if they're an advisory board, then they need to be equipped with information to be able to advise, right? And so if you're sitting there and you're saying, I have no idea, like, how can I even add value in a concrete way if I don't know any of the information? And I'm sure you guys think that sometimes as well, just being on the select board. So I have been reaching out to Mike Prager, chair of the FinCom, just to let him know the efforts that we're making around capital planning. I shared the budget presentation. We talked about the capital framework. I sent him some tools that we're using that I created in the fall so that he can start to get familiar. I said, these are not locked up. If you have recommendations or feedback or whatever, let me know and we'll work together to make things better. And so I have fully engaged him to be able to say, all right, let's talk about these things and whatever we can do to kind of help equip him and the rest of the board with information. And Mike was also, as part of the working group, the capital working group, engaged a couple of members of the FinCom as well to sit in on that. So these aren't going to be brand new things when they sit down and listen, and contribute to this combined joint meetings, right? So I think those are great things that we're doing to sort of move in this direction of collaboration and transparency, and really just give people information so that they feel valued and can really contribute in ways that, they're serving. So more to come on that, but those are things that are happening behind the scenes. And as we start to walk through the department requests with you guys and share the conversations David and I had to kind of get you more familiar with different budgets and line items, we'll do the same with FinCom so that you guys can feel like you have information to be able to make some decisions for the towns.
Great, thank you.
Time for me to go to bed.
Okay. Right.
That's my time.
That's your report. All right. All right. So, any other topics?
I I mentioned it. The meeting at school, we have Wicked Water.
Oh, right, yeah,
Yes.
congratulations.
That's
to this town for
Also,
finally
Dan
getting water.
Meyer, Dan did
Oh,
an
right,
awesome
yeah.
job.
I'm gonna go wash my hands after this.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, where's the?
Yeah, it's great.
So go wash your hands.
All right.
The truck we talked about, the record room is out to bid, opening, I believe, at the end of the month. The final thing is, we had a meeting, with Isabella Genova, the conservation agent. We had, Carl there. I believe Jody was there. Were you there the first one or the second one?
First one.
All right, and we talked about the need for, she is overwhelmed with real conservation work, not clerical work. And there was an agreement that we should take some of the revolving funds the conservation gets and use them to pay her additional hours, yeah, to support her and getting caught up with the work that she's, falling behind. Not, I won't say falling behind because I can't state that, not knowing what she, specifically is doing, but she is overwhelmed, and I think that we should upgrade that position, and that's going to be one of the changes I would propose for the upcoming year, but we can do it now with the revolving funds in this year's budget. The only question I have is who approves the revolving of funds. If it's a conscom, then they can just say, all right, we're gonna give you
Yeah, I
10
think
more
they just look
hours,
to
or
us for-
15, 20 more hours, whatever she needs to get the job done.
Just coordinate it with Jen and make sure pay rate and everything.
Yeah, we actually, Jen was involved in that.
It too is that once you go over 19 hours, then you're looking.
Yeah,
at
it's a
full-time
benefit.
benefited position, which obviously is additional cost. In this particular case, there would be a denial of benefits. There's not a need for that. Of course, there's a stipend that goes along with declining insurance coverage. And that's the case, but as David and I talked tonight, encourage, we need to look at this as the position, not who's in it right now.
Yep.
Yeah,
And so.
it's not the person, it's. the
Exactly. And so while there are hours that we can commit to this person and from a budgetary standpoint, we just need to look at that. I don't want to tell this individual, okay, well, as of June 30th, that's all we can commit to for hours. We didn't approve this position. And so too bad, so sad, right? That's just the worst position to put somebody in. So we just need to have a discussion, during the budget conversations about what that looks like, in the footprint, because right now it was only like 18 hours and they're looking to do this position at like 35 to 40 hours. So again, we'll get an idea of that.
I don't know. We'll reach that consensus.
Well, we've got some openings we got to consider for, right? So
Yep.
one thing, I know she, as an agent, she has specialized, education, she's
Yeah,
specialized, in it,
she's
right?
She's a smart woman and she's doing a great job.
But
She has all these ideas by which we
But the question is, when we think about the FTE impact, things like that, I think Gail is,
well, that was the other part of the equation.
right,
Right.
And that a lot of the work that she's doing in the clerical side.
Yeah.
Meeting minutes and filing articles for the newspaper and all that. Consolidating that building inspector services clerical person with that department and having just one person doing all of that.
yeah, so I think that's a broader,
There's a big.
I think there's an opportunity, but in that,
Services in general,
and
reorg.
town operations, organizational design, so just, I've talked to the Collins Center about seeing if they can bring somebody in to kind of sit with us, when you think about public works, what does that mean? The financial team, you think with DLS study, they gave us a whole org chart for the financial team, that we really haven't talked about. And then you've got, people that are, I think 2 people have given their notice for August retiring. So there's a lot of flux that we should really try to get in front of sooner. than
There's
later.
also,
There's opportunities there.
Yeah,
there's a bandwidth issue. Like take all that stuff out, the work she's actually doing for Concom hadn't been getting done. And I've been attending those Concom meetings and I have seen a drastic difference in throughput in the meetings now. And Carl is happy to actually be getting that work done.
that is directly related to the growth of our town. As the town grows and things are built or deconstructed, that always is going through Concom. So we should take that into account when we develop this position, because the work's not, it's just gonna accelerate, so.
The other thing that's important to consult with the financial team, you know, and I would continue to encourage department heads to do that, is a lot of times people just try to solve the problem with what they have, and we need to encourage folks to say, okay, let's make sure that we're using the skill set of Isabella, for example, and doing agent work and doing agent work. Can we backfill, you know, a temporary position? I'm a big fan of like contingent employees to handle a task. Do we put an RFP out and say, not an actual RFP, but we put something out and says, you know, we have a year and a half of meeting minutes that need to be updated.
Or like
And
senior work, or like some
you know,
meeting minutes.
Let's think about Dylan.
Again, like
Strategic
internally,
work you
maybe
could be
somebody
doing.
wants to earn money and do
Maybe
that.
have a reporting secretary, that's 3 boards.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all- it's all-
And then you can either do it as an hourly, or you can do it, you know, a lot of times they say, we'll give you $125, whether it takes you an hour or 5 hours to do the meeting.
I guess what I would ask is that we, as, you know, we can't wait to do everything. So let's try to make changes that are done in a way that it lends itself to future change, is what I would say.
I agree.
You know, and I think as a select board, I would say when we think of, hey, this fiscal year is almost 3/4 over, we're coming up on it. We should be thinking about next, you know, I think thinking through some of this stuff organizationally is should be a huge opportunity for next fiscal year, even if we get started on it sooner.
And you mean getting started on the structural portion?
Thinking about it, what the
Meeting that
impact
into
is,
organization.
right? Maybe it's an FY 26 budget change.
Right.
It's 25 is going to be baked,
Right.
you know? But I don't think we can sit on it. We gotta get after it.
Final thing is just, we're interviewing, the second group of candidates.
For the
And
PA, sir.
hopefully that'll result, it's on Friday and Saturday. And,
Stay away. Town hall
yeah,
closed.
no, so it's not that. Please do
Yeah.
not come into the building.
I told them he ruined my plans for Saturday morning. Coming to hang out at 10 o'clock.
So,
Well, the water's on now.
Yeah.
But we'll be forwarding names at that, you know, I don't know what the schedule is, but, you know, the board has to start thinking, you know, about the next round of interviews, which are gonna be in the public, as well as questions. I think the best way to approach that, and I've talked to Mary about it, so I don't know how she does it. But I think, you know, one of the things, you can't, in terms of developing questions, it has to be in an open session. I would prefer just each member pick an area that they feel comfortable with, or a need that they see in the town, and develop their own 3 questions, and then we push them all together in no meeting. You
Are
know,
we allowed to see,
You don't-
the
I
questions
think
that have been asked by the search committee before they got here?
I'm sorry,
Are we allowed to see the questions that the committee asked them
it
before?
it was an open session.
Oh.
Anybody, all
No, I
candidates.
can go see it. All right, great.
And I don't think that, you know, personally, I don't think that that's fair. That, you know, if you know all the questions before you come into the meeting, what's the interview?
Well, the last time we did this, it was like the first person got all the questions, so the next 2 people kind of.
Right, I'd like to avoid that.
Yeah.
Well, that's why
I'm saying, like, if I-
They ask if you're asking everybody the same question.
Right.
And then you could do follow-ups off of that.
So would we, well, I guess what I'd ask, I would assume Mary's probably gonna meet with the board to talk to us about the next step and how to prepare for it and her thoughts on it. Is that fair? Should
Yeah.
we expect that?
Yeah.
And would that be open or executive session in terms of the planning for that?
I'd have,
I think
Yeah.
if she talks to us, it's open, and if we talk back to her, it would have to be closed.
if you start talking about,
Right, because if she starts answering about how we're gonna answer, that's executive session, but if we're just getting advice, that's.
Right.
the thing too is, the one concern I have is that, the timeliness of it, because, in the process, you're gonna eventually come to a finalist.
Mhm.
And then generally there's a negotiation period that could take a week.
Mhm.
And then, you know, I've seen people back out, you know, so you really have to be prepared for all the little pitfalls that may go along with it, as well as the fact that if it's a person from the outside that, you know, is getting the job and they have a contract in another community,
Yeah.
they may be required to,
I mean-
6 weeks notice, and then, you know, what do we do at that point?
So you'll, Friday and Saturday, let's assume interviews are completed and candidates are identified.
Yeah.
I would hope then whoever is identified, at the minimum, those resumes are forwarded to us like
Oh, yeah,
the next day.
yeah.
Because to your point, we got to accelerate. We can't be.
Like I said, that's the point. I'm
Doing research for
Yeah.
weeks, yeah.
A lot of things can, you know, like I said, go wrong, and that you want to limit.
Way to be positive.
I've seen it. You know, like where you get 3 candidates, they say, we're gonna move you on. 2 of them say, oh, I was just practicing and I don't want to.
That's.
Right?
And, you know,
So-
that does happen, you know, and then you say, oh, we're just gonna interview this one. You don't want that either, you know?
Okay.
So. Yeah, I just
Be
want to.
prepared for the unknowns.
And I think this,
Very
like
good
I said,
about this.
moving it forward.
I'm keeping glasses half full on this one.
Right. What's that?
Glasses half full.
Yeah.
We're gonna hear good things come Monday. That's my guess.
So was that your last item?
That is it.
Okay, so then I
Don't
believe
put
there
that-
were not any other topics. Number 16, haven't heard of anything. So,
I think we covered it, yeah.
all right,
I moved to adjourn.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so meeting adjourned at, 8:26.
Thank you.